everybody, welcome back. YouTube.com/GeekLoud. Hopefully now you can even hear us on the audio streams. My apologies for the false start this evening, everyone. Anything that could go wrong has gone wrong today here in the Geek Aloud studio, which is why I don't even have a live camera rolling. But this is my avatar for the evening in the top slot. Under me, though, is Unky. Unky, how you doing, mate? Thank you for joining us and putting up with all this technical hoopla.
Mate, I'm doing very well. It's almost like we've done this before.
It does have an air of familiarity about it, doesn't it? And of course, Bully's in that bottom slot. How you doing today, Bully?
I am doing very well, thank you. And apologies to those that were already watching. But let's be honest, it wouldn't be G.E.A. without some minor technical hiccup or a late start, and we've got both. So hopefully we'll get into the show proper now, and we'll be sweet for the remainder of it.
She'll be right, mate. Double threat guy. Let me tell everyone the rundown of show in the incredibly condensed format of we start with games, interrogation, and deliberation. It is the 7 games we've played this week, accompanied by our footage. And then the second segment is the news segment. Unky Dunky's been kicking in newsroom doors. Unky, how many stories have you rounded up this evening?
I've got 7 this week. It's been a big week in news, but I've sort of tried to pick the best of the bunch.
Beautiful work, mate. Thank you very much. And then, of course, we go over to the standoff, everyone's favourite segment. Unky, what does it take to be standing off this evening?
Mate, we've got Dead Island 2 finally out this week after a long hiatus. So we're looking at the best islands in video games and which one would we like to be stranded on.
Ooh, all right then. And then finally, we have the audience integration/interrogation. Bully, would you mind, sir, patrolling the YouTube chat for us live this evening, flicking up any comments, and any that we do miss, we'll get to in Seg 4. How does that sound?
Certainly will, and so we've already got a few contributors in there, so by all means drop a comment as we're discussing some of the games or the news items, and I'll endeavour to bring it up as we're going.
Fantastic work. Thank you very much. Without any further ado, games, interrogation, and deliberation. Boom. Yep, that's broken. Game 1 this week is Minecraft Legends. Unky Dunky, I hand it over to you, sir.
Minecraft Legends out yesterday, so I haven't had too much time with this one. But what I've had time with at the moment has been rather fun. I had the little fella sit down with me, and he was instantly drawn away from his YouTube that he was watching in the kitchen when I popped on. He's like, "Have you got this now?" I'm like, "Yes, I've got this now." Is it Minecraft? I'm like, "Yeah, it's sort of Minecraft. It's got the Minecraft sort of looks, but it's a completely sort of different game to what we're used to. It's a real-time strategy game. Not too dissimilar like your Age of Empires and stuff, but this you do have a little bit more to do because you are on a little horseback as your little character as well. And I let my little fella pick my character. I got the guy with the skull face and the cool cape, so he does look kind of cool. You run around and you go through the tutorial level. It tells you how to sort of play the game. You can, create your little troops, and as you go through the game, you get sort of more troops you can create. You can send people out to gather the rocks and stones and trees and stuff for you, like you would in the Minecraft normal game. But then you use their abilities to then build structures and stuff. And then so the start of the game is a bit fetch questy. It's all doing setting these different parts of the map to sort of take out piglins and stuff like that, which are essentially like Lord of the Rings. What are they called? Not golems. What are they called?
Yep, those guys.
Those guys. Those is the orcs. Are they orcs? I think they're orcs.
That sounds right.
So piglins are like that. So it's kind of like they're all sort of in Mordor and they're finally coming out. It's kind of not really. It's kind of on the nose. It's a little too similar to Lord of the Rings for my liking so far, but all wrapped in a nice Minecraft sheen. But no, having a lot of fun with it, and it's quite user friendly. I thought sort of watching some of the reviews on this game that it might be a bit hard for kids to play, but it does sort of spell it out to you pretty easily and pretty nicely at the start. And even someone like me who's not really into real-time strategy games and renowned for not liking these sort of games as much anymore, I'm finding a lot of fun in this. I think it is because it does have that sort of cute little Minecraft aesthetic to it, and just sort of being able to drag those little Minecraft characters that you've grown to love over these years along with you for the fight. It's quite fun, and it looks really pretty as well. Now, the only issue I have had with this game, though, is I was speaking about it just before we realised no one could actually hear us. Now that they can hear us, I've been having one main issue with it is I've got to a point in the game where I think I've mainly finished all the tutorial part of it and finally beaten the first big sort of gate, or whatever you want to call it, nether gate in the game, and it goes to a really beautiful cutscene. But that beautiful cutscene seems to crash the game every single time. I reckon I've replayed that bit 9 times now. And still cannot get through that cutscene. It may last 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 2 seconds. It might, as soon as the cutscene sort of starts to play, sometimes the game just crashes. And the first time it did it, I went straight back into the game, and my whole progress up to that point had actually disappeared completely.
Oh.
So it said start new game. I couldn't do my game, so I hard quit out of it again, went back in. My game was there, and I had auto save right before I'd done this mission. So I'd already knocked down, and I already had a few auto saves and died a couple of times in doing it. And then it was this last life that I was using to sort of take down that final bit of the structure to get into that cutscene that I was doing. So it only takes me about 3-4 minutes to redo that bit every time, but it needs to be patched out. I've seen a few issues online with this game crashing, but not too many. I'm thinking it's a vast issue for the game out there, which I hate to think that it is, considering on PlayStation 5 you actually have to pay for this game, and same with Nintendo Switch as well. So it's a shame, because it's a game that I didn't expect. I expected to jump into just for a little bit, just to sort of give my thoughts on it, but found myself actually annoyed that I couldn't keep playing it more because of this issue, and find myself wanting to go back and play this game more, because it's just a nice little couch game where you can just sit there and have fun and not think too much. Like, I'm not playing this on hard because, these type of games, I don't need to play them on hard. I just want to enjoy the story, enjoy the aesthetic of the game, and have some fun. So chuck it on easy difficulty and get through it and do that. But I can't even do that at the moment, unfortunately.
That sounds incredibly frustrating, mate. My suggestion would be try playing it on the xCloud and see if the other hardware running it on someone else's Xbox might just get you past that checkpoint, save and quit, and then I reckon you'll be right to resume on yours. Would be my tip there. I'm assuming we're all playing on Xbox through Game Pass Ultimate or Game Pass subscription?
I would assume so. I'm not sure if Bully's had a chance to get into it.
No, I haven't had a chance to play it yet. We'll get to that in the next story, but had a few technical issues of my own last night trying to play something else. So, look, for me, it's not. I've never really played Minecraft other than just sort of mucking around with the kids occasionally when they were sort of into it. And I don't know. I take on board sort of what you're saying, Unky, about the sort of cute aesthetics of it, but I'd almost say it the other way, that blocky sort of stuff doesn't really do it for me. So I almost say it the other way, it's almost a turn off. But I didn't realise it was actually a pseudo sort of RTS game. So that might draw me a little bit. I just thought it was sort of like an action type.
No, not at all.
Kids fair, I guess.
No, not actually at all. It does have a bit where you're riding the horse. You can't get off the horse. You're always on it. You can just hit one button to essentially attack. So you're attacking these little tiny enemies and stuff. But essentially, you're sort of creating this whole group of people that you're sending in different kinds. You've got archers. You've got guys that are better at sort of taking down the buildings and stuff. And then you get a whole bunch of. You can recruit other, like in this attack on that nether base that I had. You can recruit all these skeletons and those. This is how much I don't play Minecraft. Those big green things, what are they called again?
The creepers.
The creepers. So you just go and press X and recruit all of them. You take them and tell them to charge at the thing. So it's very much real-time strategy. I completely had no idea what to expect or what this game was from all the stuff we saw pre-release. But playing it now, it's definitely sort of like, baby's first RTS game. But if you ramp it up to hard, it's definitely not for babies, that's for sure. I was having a bit of difficulty just on the standard difficulty.
Well, it's funny. I just saw a comment in the chat there that just in relation to some of the crashes you've got there, that's what you get for trying to play a Minecraft game at your age, Junkie.
I don't discriminate. Gaming's for everyone. Doesn't matter what it is.
That's true.
I'm not one to talk. I think I was trying to pop fast achievements last year on one of the Paw Patrol games. So yeah, I can't comment in that space. It's not for me to judge.
Very good. I put in about an hour with this, and I was playing with my young bloke. He was on his laptop. I was on the Xbox. So that's him. You can see there, a noob dummy. But he'd already gone hands-on. He's loved this game. I think he's about 4 or 5 hours in at this point, and he was escorting me through the start of my game. But as I've put in about an hour, and I don't think I'll be going back to this game. There was not a whole lot in it for me. Like, my boys love it, and more power to them. I hope they enjoy it, but it just doesn't tickle my fancies at all, Unky. I don't think there's anything here for me, especially if you can't get off that mount. What's going on there?
Yeah, that's true. I could see, like, I can't see myself playing it longer. I felt like I wanted to play it beyond that point that I got to, because I feel like it was about to open up a little bit, but I can also see it becoming quite repetitive if that's essentially all you're doing for the game as well, without a love for Minecraft like a lot of the kids have.
Yeah, exactly. They make up their own stories, and maybe that's exactly what's needed here. I have no further points. Unky, do you, or shall we move on?
No, let's move on to game number 2.
All right, then, game number 2, and it's over to you, Bully. Horizon Forbidden West.
Well, I've only put about an hour and a half into it, and I'm a little bit annoyed because I went to, obviously, well, I'm not sure in different countries, but in Australia it released yesterday. I think it was today for depending on where you're listening and when listening. But got home from work yesterday. Thought, yep, I'll download the DLC and I'll get a bit of game time into it last night, and completely slipped my mind that what's the one thing you need to play DLC is the base game installed.
What? Now, isn't
and
it
I thought,
specifically in its own area, its own zone?
Yep, in its own area, in its own zone, but you still need to get the base. Sorry, what was that?
PS5 only as well.
And PS5 only. So I did jump on, and I thought, oh well, that's all right. I'll download the base game, which is now on PS Plus for those that have subscribing to that, and 112 gigabytes that the base game is blown out to. So that took most of last night and left me with nothing to play.
Ouch.
But did manage to jump into it today, and I'll tell you, the first thing, I completely forgot how absolutely beautiful this game is. You start off in the wherever you left off in the map. You just continue your game from the original base game, and then you receive a quest to meet. I can't remember what was the character Lance Reddick plays. Silas. So you meet him. He tells you about this separate area, which is, this is not a spoiler. I think it's in most of the marketing material. It's basically Greater Los Angeles sort of area. That there's someone that you've got to go and find down there, and that's essentially the first sort of opening to it. And you can see on screen that's sort of more or less what you can see there is the opening segment that you're flying from the base area to the new Burning Shores area, which is what it's called. And again, as I said before, it's absolutely beautiful. I completely forgot how amazing this game looks. And, even through the cutscenes, and once you get into that and actually start playing the game itself, it's absolutely amazing. It took me probably maybe 2 or 3 minutes, because you're thrown right into a battle off the get-go. So it took me a couple of minutes just to get my head around the control scheme again and what the different buttons are and all that sort of stuff. But very intuitive. Once you're back into it, it throws you in pretty quickly. You meet a new tribe and essentially start off on a mission and sort of start working through it that way. And it's, there's probably not much more to say of it, but it's, if you liked Horizon or the second, I really enjoyed both of them, but certainly if you enjoyed Forbidden West, then it's just more of the same, essentially, with there's more armor, there's more upgrades, there's more weapons, the level cap's increased on top of that.
How about the whinges? More whinges?
More whinges? Oh, I don't know. I'll just tune out, skip the cutscenes, skip the dialogue. But the gameplay itself's amazing, and there's, as is to my understanding, and I haven't seen any yet, is that there's actually more of the dinosaurs that you come across that you haven't seen in any of the first two games. So it opens it up. There's more to be seen and more to be done. And I think from what I saw, I think there was about 20 to 25 more trophies to go with the DLC. And from what I've read, depending on how much you do in terms of the side quests, or whether you just focus on the main sort of quest and all that sort of stuff, it'll take you 15 to 20 hours. So that's basically a third of what it took me to platinum Forbidden West in and of itself. So it's probably, if you just ran through the main mission, it'd probably be about a quarter of the size of the main game, which I don't think is too bad. And it's a $30 DLC in Australia, so that's 5.5 cents US that it cost them. I think it's well worth the value. To be honest, if you enjoy Horizon, if you like what the base game had to offer, this is just more of the same, and then extra stuff on top of that.
And sorry, mate, you may have said already, but what was the? Did you have the individual download size for the DLC, or just it's one big number now?
No, so it's two separate parts. So if you're interested in that, that'll be up on the channel tomorrow. The Let's Install for that, and it's about 16.5 odd gig for the DLC section itself. So not a massive increase. And as Unky said before, the fact that it's set in an entirely new area that's completely separate from the base game as well, I don't think that's an unreasonable sort of size to be downloading. Obviously they're going to be reusing a lot of the assets from the base game and that sort of stuff, but Not a bad size, I wouldn't have thought. Not a bad price. So, as I said, if you have an interest in it, I'd say jump into it.
My last question, mate, is it obvious that there something specific that you can see is PS5 only? Can you see what their hurdle was in putting this DLC on the PS4?
Oh, look, it's probably a bit hard for me to judge that because I played the base game on the PS5. So I don't know if there was any struggles, but I would certainly just hazard it as a guess that the difference between the base game would be the frame rate that it runs at, and probably some of there might be glitching or loading issues in terms of the PS4 version that you won't get on the PS5 version. So I think it's probably, I've said it a few times over the last sort of 12 or 18 months. I think it's time now that Sony, especially as a first party, just moves away from the PS4. And hopefully this is a step in the right direction, that they're just dropping off what is now a fairly inferior product. It's 10 years old, let's be honest. And even the PS5's, over 2 years old now. So it's time they moved on. If they focus their efforts on which is hopefully what they're doing now by having the DLC PS5 only, which I understand will annoy some of the folks that have only got the PS4 version or don't have access to a PS5 or whatever their case may be, that they're not going to be able to access it. But the reality is I think this is a step in the right direction. Just concentrate on making the one version of the game that you don't have to sort of cull things out or dull down the PS5 version to meet the requirements of a PS4. I think this is the way to go going forward.
Perfect. I love it. All right, game 3. Speaking of things I love, Vampire Survivors. Guys, I've finally rolled credits on Vampire Survivors thanks to the new DLC, which is Tides of the... Now, I'm going to throw to you, Unky, for the pronunciation of the final word in this DLC title.
Well, I can't see it.
Game 3, Vampire Survivors, Tides of the...
Foscari, I'm going to say.
Foscari, that'll do. That's the map you can see now. It's a new, forest type map. There's a frozen section up the top, but it is the same Vampire Survivors fun. As I said, it got me hooked so hard, I actually went back and rolled the credits. I worked through all the base achievements, which was, I can't even remember. There's a lot. There is a lot of 5-point achievements in this game. So it's having flat out. I absolutely love it. They've added a bunch of new powers. They've added 2 modifiers with offsets as well. So there's like there's a gold ring and a silver ring. The silver ring buffs you, the gold ring buffs the enemies. And then there's the same thing with like a left and a right chevron, which is just crazy. But you can wind the game up essentially to about 100 past 10. Like, it's just, this game now goes from full on to totally crazy. I'm so glad we gave it the Indie Game of the Year last year for G.E.A's Judgment Day. It was just, the game was beautiful then, but it's just gotten better now. New enemy types, new main characters, new achievements, 1 new level, a bunch of new challenges. I highly recommend it, and I think it was about $3. So if you enjoyed the base game of Vampire Survivors, I say there's no better time to get back into it and get your fix. Unky, any questions?
No, nothing at all. I just have to give a shout out. He said it won G.E.A's Indie Game of the Year, but it also just won Game of the Year at the BAFTAs as well, beating out God of War and Elden Ring. So well done, wow. Vampire Survivors. Such a great little game, especially, it's like got the Untitled Goose Game where that won Game of the Year for, it wasn't the BAFTAs, it was, what was that? I think that was the DICE Awards. I might have got the Game of the Year there. But good to see these little indie games doing big things in the space of big AAA titles.
Yeah, and it was fantastic when I did roll credits to see how short they were, like true indie game. I think there was about 6 or 8 unique names in there. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Fantastic effort. Bully, I take it you've got no thoughts or comments on the old Vampire Survivors?
No, I haven't played the DLC, but obviously played a fair bit of the base game itself. And as you said, it's a fantastic game. I didn't actually think that you could roll credits on it. I thought it was just one of those games that you just sort of kept going back to and
No,
and
there is
just replayed the levels and all the rest of it.
there's a very odd final boss fight that is in keeping with this game and maybe what is it? Goat Simulator 3. Like it's just a bit of a crazy off the wall, like everything goes pear-shaped, the world looks like it's eating itself. Truly unique game, well worth rolling credits on, but I think I just passed 60 hours in this game, so let's move on, shall we? Unky, over to you for Gotham Knights.
Yeah, it's been backlog week these last couple of weeks without nothing really sort of new to speak of. But no, jump back into Gotham Knights again. I've been playing a lot of that DC Heroes, Cosmic. I keep wanting to say Cosmic Shake, but that's the game that we spoke about last week. I know Bully went and platinumed it this week as well, so he clearly liked our episode on it last week, so much so that he's got out and bought it and platinumed that game. So well done, Bully.
Great work, Bully.
But it just got me back into the DC mood. And then there was a new Netflix movie that came out this week as well, which is Batman and Superman. I think it's Battle of the Super Sons, which is Robin and then Superman's son as well. Really cool animated Netflix movie if you want to see something cool as well. But I watched that. That just got me back into this mood. I just felt like I wanted to go back in and be all stealthy and look at some pretty graphics, albeit in 30 frames per second. But another reason I wanted to do this is because all the news surrounding Redfall last week sort of not hitting that 60 frames per second on day one, and we're going to be 30 frames. So I thought, let's go back and play something that was 30 frames that did look pretty and see what the issues with were. But it did get an update recently where it did fix a lot of the frame rate issues it did have and the hitching and stuff when you're on your motorbike. So it runs at a really flawless 30 now. And once you're in that world, at the 30 frames per second for quite a while, you don't actually notice it as much as you do when you first jump from a 60 frame straight to a 30 frame. So
I reckon it's about a 20-minute window.
Yeah, so you just sit there, all of a sudden okay, this actually seems quite smooth, and then you jump back into a 60 frame game, and obviously that's silky smooth as butter. But while you're in it, it doesn't matter too much. And I think Redfall will probably be the same. I think maybe a little bit different because it's a first person shooter. But 30 frames in this, and I jump back into this and not realizing or forgetting that it actually had an update, I think in November, for a Heroics Assaulter mode, which is like a new co-op mode they added, which is separate from the main campaign. And it was cool. It was just set up at the top part of the map where you go there and you've got to do it one time. You can play it solo with up to four players. I think anyone can pick any character, so you can have four, Robins getting around there if you like, or four Batgirls or whatever you like. But I jumped in there solo, and it was a really fun time. Like I jumped in, did the first stage. I think it's 30 different stages you get. You go.
Sorry, when you say solo, is that AI or solo?
No, just solo, just by myself, yeah. So they give you these sort of big sort of challenge rooms, kind of like the Batman Arkham games did back in the day with challenge rooms, but they're under these caves and they give you the same kind of things like get 5 stealth kills or kill this amount of enemies with heavy attacks or don't be seen, all that kind of stuff. And you'll do different levels and then you've got to get yourself to the end and up the elevator to get all the final like stuff from all the chests and all the fancy stuff to get all the new suits and all that stuff. So I had a lot of fun jumping into that. And I'd love to jump back into this game co-op. I had so much fun with this game last year when we were jumping in there playing co-op, and jumping back in again and replaying on a new game plus, which is what I've done, just to start the game from scratch again with my heroes, with all their awesome attire that you unlock when you finish that game and all the abilities that you've got from the end of that game at a new game. It's been a lot of fun. I've just enjoyed driving around Gotham on my motorbike and just doing random crimes. And I really going back and playing this game. I really hope they do another game like this, a sequel to this, or even if the same guys do a Ninja Turtles game, I wouldn't be mad at all, because essentially all these characters are just different versions of the Turtles. Like they all fit the exact same stereotypes. I'm not going to go as to who's who. You can probably figure it out yourself. But no, we spoke highly of this game last year when a lot of other reviewers and media outlets out there were bagging it. And I just think this new update they get is a lot of fun in co-op, and this game was fun multiplayer back in the day, and it's just got another reason to jump back in there. So no, I've had a lot of fun with this going back this week.
I'm glad you've enjoyed it, mate. I don't think I'll be firing it back up, but good that it's there for you. What about you, Bully? Is this grabbing you? Do you think you'll be going back to the backlog for this one?
I reckon I will. It's one of those games that I played through it, beat the main story, and did a few of the other things. But it's similar to some of the other Batman games that, or the Arkham games that every 2 or 3 years I'll sort of go back to them. So I think that'll be the same thing. Is I'll it's got a new game plus now. It's got some new features. They've patched up, as Unky said, some of the other issues that were sort of rolling through the game at launch. So I think it'll be one of those things that I'll definitely get back to it, but it's probably not not something that I'll rush back into. Not because I don't enjoy playing the game. It's just I think we were speaking about it during the week when we were talking about Resi 4, Unky and I, that he sort of went through the main campaign and finished it, and then jumped back into it and tried to get some unlocks and that sort of stuff. Whereas I played through that, do all that. I want to get back into it and unlock some of those things, but I like to have a bit of a break between playthroughs of games, just to have a bit of a breather and a break from the story. Otherwise, I find it tends to sort of drag a little bit, and you get bogged down in it, and it becomes almost a game that you don't end up really wanting to continue to play. So I find having that gap sort of works, and this will be exactly the same for that. I'll have that sort of 12 or 18 month gap, and 100% I'll jump back into it, and hopefully, I think there was there's that mode that you were talking about there, Unky, the
Heroic Assault.
The Heroic Assault. And I was having a look at that today, and I think there's another mode that's coming out, which is another co-op style thing as well. So outside of the main game, where you can sort of jump in and jump out. So they're adding more stuff into it, as we've spoken about. They've continued to patch it. I think they've released 2 or 3 patches this year. So the fact that they're still looking at it 6 months after release and trying to fix some of those issues that have been identified is commendable to them. And in terms of the frame rate, I never really noticed it when I was playing. I didn't see it as an issue. I didn't have stutter. For the most part, it was hitting that 30 frames or thereabouts, and I didn't really notice it. But I suppose with Redfall, we'll wait and see whether it's, as you said, first-person shooter. That might be a bit harder to swallow, but a third-person action game, ideally you'd love that 60 frames, but I don't think it's the be-all and end-all. And as you said, if you get an hour into it, you start getting a feel for it, and you start, just working your way through it, and you almost get to the point where you don't realise that it's only 30 anyway. So I know when it was released, there was people carrying on like a 2-bob watch about how it was unplayable and this and that and the other. Don't be sport brats. Just play it. It's a good game. It's a good game.
Final word from me, guys. Just put it on your backlog.
The backlog, I love it. All right, Bully. Now this one's off you. I guess you'd call it a front log because it was a closed beta, but you went hands-on with XDefiant over the weekend.
I did, and if you haven't had a look at any of the gameplay, or you want some a bit more in-depth as I'm playing through it, jump onto the channel. There was a 30 or 40-minute Let's Play where I played through 3 or 4 of the multiplayer matches there. Overall thoughts on it? Look, to be honest, it's I can see it's in that mold of trying to compete with Call of Duty is essentially what it's doing. It's got very similar maps. Some of the gameplay modes were a little bit different. It's a lot more and it may change when they release the full product, but certainly the beta only had capture the flag type variant. Variations on that, I suppose. Whereas obviously Call of Duty's got a lot more modes to it. In terms of the gameplay itself, and again, it's hard to be overly critical because it was a beta, but some of the lag on the players that you were playing against was almost unplayable, because you would see them jumping across the screen quite noticeably, where they'd be on the, as you're looking at the screen, they'd be on the right-hand side, and then it's almost like they're jumping across the screen in front of you, and within half a second they're on the other side of the screen. Like, it was just almost unplayable in that respect. And it's not an internet issue. It's not an internet issue for me. I've never had lag that bad or any ping-related issues in terms of the internet before. So, again, hopefully they fix that up for the main release, but it was almost unplayable in sections when it was doing that, and you can see that quite clearly on the Let's Play as well.
Fair enough, man. And I will always excuse a beta for bad connection issues. That's exactly what a beta is good for, firming that up. So that's fine. My first one for you, mate, is were you on Xbox or PlayStation?
Xbox I played it on, so I haven't really looked into it to see if those same sort of issues were on the PlayStation version. But I played on the Xbox and didn't have any connection issues, but I did have crossplay enabled. So I wonder did you have that enabled or disabled? Whatever it was by default, I don't think I changed it. So if it was, I think it was crossplay by default. So.
It may have been, but I got bitten by. I didn't have people warping around. I didn't have like someone or multiple people with high ping rates. But what I did notice was I was like the majority of my rounds were PC players, and they were just kicking my teeth in with the mouse and keyboard. Like they are so much more precise, and the player pool wasn't that big in the beta, and so they don't have that sort of ranking system where they can group like skilled players together and then you can have a fair experience. So I played 4 rounds, got my teeth kicked in severely, didn't notice any warping issues. But my question would be, Billy, do you think this street was straight out of the map, the world you're playing in was straight out of Division 1? Is that Times Square from the Division 1?
It sort of does a little bit, yeah. But look, to be honest, I found that there was 3 or 4 different maps that I played. I think the one you've got on screen there is an escort one, which is the one mode I didn't play. But the maps with the other games were you could see the heavy influence of Call of Duty. I'm just looking in the chat there that James has jumped in there and just said he's just let us know that XDefiant is being made by former Call of Duty pros and devs. So you can obviously see the heavy influence there. So and the only other thing, which again I'll excuse it in the beta form, but I'd certainly hope that when the main game is released that they fix it up. But and it may have had something to do, like you said, Troy, with the PC players and the mouse and keyboard. But I found with Call of Duty, it's very twitchy. So if you're the first person, like if you spot an opposition player, generally, if you see them first and squeeze the trigger first, and as long as you're relatively accurate, you'll get the kill. Whereas I found it with this is that I'd find them, I'd squeeze the trigger, I'd get probably half a dozen good bullet rounds into their center mass or whatever it is. They turn around with the exact same gun, fire 2 rounds at you, and you were dead. So. I don't know whether that is just a bit of imbalancing as they're trying to work through things with the weapons and how it all sort of works, or whether because they had a pseudo sort of battle pass included in the beta as well, whether there was just players that had spent significant amount of times in the beta itself, and because of that had unlocked some other attachments to the gun or some armor options. I didn't really look into it too deeply in terms of the Game Pass thing, but if that's something down the track. I know Call of Duty can be hard to get into, especially if you're trying to jump into, we obviously had Modern Warfare 2's release in November last year. Well, if you're trying to jump into it, even now or in 6 months' time when people have had the time to get the battle pass and get their skills up and the work out what the best attachments are for the weapons are, it's extremely hard to pick it up and walk into it. And that would be one thing I'd be fearful of this is if it's that almost weighted to people who have put time and or money, if it ends up being a cost proposition for the battle pass, if they put in the time and money for it to the point where their weapons are just so heavily upgraded that you can't win coming in fresh. I don't think that's good long term for the game because it puts new players off. Unless you're in that initial sort of launch window, word will get around pretty quick that it's fairly unbalanced, and you'll end up only with the hardcore players, and it will die slow death. So, there's some things to be concerned about. But to be honest with you, there are things that can be fixed for the main release, and we'll see how we go. And I'm just having a look in the chat. We've got Jacob, who I don't think we've had in there before, but he's just saying even with Call of Duty, just missing out on one season in Call of Duty or some of the meta that goes in that puts you at a massive disadvantage going forward. So, the reality is I think they need to tidy that up. As it stands, it is, I guess in summary, is it a Call of Duty killer as it stands at the moment? I'd say no, it's probably a tier down. And I was discussing with Unky before the show, it's even, from my point of view, if you take it back a couple of generations to the PS3, Xbox 360 sort of generations, and if you put Call of Duty as the AAA ultimate multiplayer experience on those consoles, and it was fairly evident when you were getting a B and a C grade style game that was trying to copy them. This is almost to that level as it stands. So I'm really hopeful that that they put some more development. They use the information and the feedback they've got from the beta, and they can get it up to that standard. But as it sits at the moment, it's in my opinion, a fair way off what Call of Duty's offering, to be honest.
Yeah, fair summary there, mate. The only thing I'd caution or suggest maybe is that I didn't notice the problem with the weapon imbalance. And if there is imbalance, all your points are 100% correct, and I agree with you. But I just wonder if you were talking about there was warping issues, those exact same issues occur with the traversal of the bullets across the map. So it's possible that it was just several players with high pings that were resulting in your bullets not registering. They visually look good to you on screen, but as far as the server's concerned, they may have been, 20 degrees off target or whatever. Anyway, minor point. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. Do we know if there is this free to play altogether? Like when it releases, is it going to be a free to play game or not?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it. I'd be very concerned if it was, because that would raise my concerns even more in terms of player imbalance, because we've seen in the beta that there's it's going to be different to a Fortnite style, where basically there's not weapon upgrades or anything. It's just skins and different things like that. Whereas you can already see in the beta that there's a progression tree, for want of a better word, in terms of attachments to guns and stuff like that. So if it's free to play and they're relying on players spending money to fund the game going forward, and part of being able to do that is to upgrade your weapons and make them better, I'd be extremely concerned if they went down that route. It'll imbalance the game from the get-go. It'll make your Unky style whales who are prepared to drop money left, right, and centre, almost unbeatable, and it'll die a very, very quick death if that's the case.
Fair enough. Unky, any points from you, mate? Did you go hands-on at all?
No, I didn't go hands-on because for whatever reason I couldn't get the key or wasn't sent to me. I don't know what was going on there, Troy. You did your best to try and help me out there, but I couldn't make it work. But no, it's a Call of Duty clone, for lack of a better word. I think they are trying to do the different thing where it is a Ubisoft game and they are pulling from all the other different Ubisoft franchises, which I do like. So I know you've got the Libertad, I think it's from Far Cry as a team. You've got the Phantoms from Ghosts. You've got Third Echelon, which is obviously Splinter Cell. The Cleaners, which I believe are Division, and you've got DedSec as well from Watch Dogs. So I like that they've got all these different factions, and I'm hoping they sort of maybe play differently. Bully might be able to speak to whether they actually play differently or not, or whether they're just skins. But I think from what you said earlier, Troy, with the level looking like it was from Division, that wouldn't be far-fetched. I think they are pulling these levels from different Ubisoft games, and that's, I think, where their aesthetic difference is going to be from Call of Duty, is pulling from these well-established Ubisoft franchises. And I could see it easily being a free-to-play game, given the fact that you've got all this stuff you can pull from other games and cosmetics and all that kind of stuff. But you don't want, as Bully said, you don't want any of that stuff to go towards gameplay stuff. It's all going to have to be cosmetics, just like Fortnite is. But I don't think we've got a release date on this. I think it's supposed to release sometime this year. The beta is good for obviously ironing out all those issues. Obviously, Diablo's just done it recently to great success, and they're changing a fair bit of their game, or fixing a lot of their game before it comes out. I think it's just gone gold as well. So hopefully they do that with this. Again, I find it real hard, especially we've spoken a lot these last couple of weeks about live service games just go on the downward trajectory unless you are one of the big Call of Duty, Fortnites, etc., getting around there. So I'll be very interested to see how this goes. I think I could see a lot of people jumping in sort of first couple of weeks of that, but then the game's not out yet. It's only going to be later towards the end of the year, and then you've got a new Call of Duty coming out anyway. So I can see that getting its lunch eaten. So I'm not sure how big the player base is going to be for this game and how long it's going to last. So I think it's going to be another Ubisoft failure, unfortunately, just like it's a pirate ship game that's never going to come out.
Wow, big call. All right, then. Let's move on, shall we? Game 6. This one's me. It's more after the fall action. But Bully and I, following on from last week where Bully and I had both, Unky and I had both discussed the solo action. Bully and I, in the footage you can see here, finally got the co-op happening. And we both got to play. And Bully, once again, mate, you had to carry me through a multiplayer game.
Oh, it's no different to me. You can see the screen stacked up the way it is. I'm carrying you two on the screens.
Keeping true to form. It was very interesting playing with another player because I'd been, I don't know, maybe 5-6 hours in before I started playing with Bully, and I was very much into the active reload, the full sort of manual reload process. But then playing next to Bully and seeing how much more effective he was time management wise, I had to flick it over to I think they call it easy or assisted or something, the reloading. It's much more automatic. You just sort of hold it to your chest and hit the X button and your gun reloads. So less satisfying from an immersive sense, but certainly far more efficient. You can get a lot more shots off in the time. But absolutely love this game. It's so good. I haven't finished it yet. I've played a few more levels. How are you guys traveling with it, Unky? How far in are you now?
Yeah, I said last week that I managed to get to the end of that level on the harder difficulty. I went back and played it on the easy difficulty just to prove that I could do exactly like Troy could do and finish that level. But I actually did the opposite to you. I flicked over to the harder reload just to see how I went with that, and it was you definitely feel the difference with the 50% buff you get for damage because you can just like lay headshot, bang, 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 all their heads go pop, and it's quite satisfying. But I did find myself fumbling around a fair bit during the boss fight when I've got like all this stuff going on. I'm trying to reload, and it doesn't reload, or I can't get the mag in. And then I've got a second gun on this side that I'm trying to reload as well. And then I've got my assault rifle that I'm trying to do. And it was just all a bit too much. So I think I might go back to that assisted reload because I just found it a bit more snappy and fun to sort of run through the levels like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm now into that second level. So I managed to get 2 floppy disks out of that, some upgrades and a new gun that I can get. So I'm looking forward to jumping back in again, though.
Great work, mate. My hand is firmly up. If you're looking for a co-op partner, sign me up. I'm loving my time with it. I intend to go back and finish the single-player campaign and still be available for multiplayer. Obviously, the drip feed of the new attachments and upgrades for your weapons is fantastic. Keeps me coming back, and I imagine it will for some time. That'll do for After the Fall. Over to you, Bully, for Game 7, the final one this evening, Monster Boy.
So Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, it was funny while I was sitting there yesterday waiting for the ginormous download that is Horizon. I'd noticed that there was a few new games dropped onto the PS Plus Premium level, and this was one of them, Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, and I sort of had a look at it and reminded me of a Sega Master System game, Wonder Boy and Monster World. No, Monster World was a different one. Monster Land it was, where you basically get you start off basically overpowered. You fight a dragon, and then you're transformed into basically a beast type character, and all your stats go back to zero. So that's more or less the premise of the game, and it looked fairly similar to that. So I thought, there's not much download on that. I'll jump into it, and from the moment that I turned it on and started playing it, it's not a one-for-one remake or anything like that. But it's certainly heavily influenced by that particular game and the progression system where you get transformed into one particular character, and then you each character's got a different set of abilities that you can use, and you can access certain areas of a broader open world. Once you start unlocking some of those abilities, and as I said, from the minute I started playing it and got into it, it was like I was back in 1988 in my Sega Master System and sitting there, and clearly it's got a better graphical style than what you get out of the old Master System, but it was certainly a really enjoyable game. Even some of the music tones and rhythms in it brought back some memories there. So I really enjoyed it. It's actually quite difficult in terms of a platformer, Troy. So for you, I maybe won't recommend it, but it's actually quite enjoyable and harkens back to those sort of 80s and early 90s platformer type games. Really enjoyable, great music, great graphical and art style that they've got going on with it. The bosses are inventive, and some of the fighting systems with that, I won't give too many of it away because it'll sort of give away how to beat them. But some of the ways you fight against them is quite imaginative, as opposed to just hacking them with a sword or whatever it is and dodging a few of their attacks. And there's a fair bit to there's secrets galore. It's almost you could almost describe it as a Metroidvania type game where you unlock your abilities and different aspects that you can then go back to previous areas and access more secrets and different areas and stuff like that. I really enjoyed it. So, it's not for everyone, but it certainly hit that nostalgia hit for me. And I think I ended up playing 2 or 3 hours yesterday, and I'll be jumping back into it and playing a bit more. Although I might, I've gotten to a few stages, much like you, Troy, where the controller almost was thrown at the TV with some of the difficulty and nonsense of it, where you go from basically a full set of hearts and health to you fall on one set of spikes and you're dead. So it was.
That's because you're angry though. Troy just physically can't hold his controller anymore when you play video games.
Excellent, Billy. It doesn't sound like one for me. However, I am keen for your PlayStation Plus update video this month. This obviously sounds like the crowning jewel of that one, though.
Well, there was that in Kenner, I think, Kenner Bridge of Spirits, which I never actually played because the physical version, for some reason, the physical version, every time I go to look at it, it's still basically at full price, and I'm not paying full price for a 3-year-old game. So the fact that it's on PS Plus, hopefully it drops the physical price and I can pick it up there. But if not, I can play it for free here. So I installed that yesterday as well, and I'll certainly jump into that at some point today.
Excellent work, mate. I love it. Unky, any points from you, or should we set our sights to the newsroom?
The only point from me is, Bully, you sold me. I've just hit download on my lap here, so it's going to be ready for you to go straight after the show finishes, because I'm sold. I love a game with a cute little art style like that. It looks like a fun platformer. So, mate, I'm going to give that one a crack.
There you go.
Beautiful work. All right, we will take a short reload and then be back with the news. To remain newsworthy this evening, my friend.
Right, news story number 1 from VGC. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has been delayed to 2024. The delay follows a poor showing at Sony's February State of Play. The game will now launch on February 2nd, 2024. So Rocksteady has confirmed the news now that this game has been delayed again after having a massive State of Play and showing the world what its gameplay was. And again, I was someone that wasn't too much of a knocker on the gameplay. I thought it actually looked all right. It just didn't look like a Rocksteady Batman game. It looked like a lot of live service stuff there. I think they might be going back to the drawing board, similar to what Gotham Knights looks like that did as well. They looked like their game was going to be live service. They pivoted and sort of went with not live service, but still co-op game that you could play solo with a lot of those RPG elements and stuff in it as well. So not sure how much you can change the game between now and February 2nd, but maybe they are going to get rid of that sort of always online live servicey aspect of it, because that seems to be the main gripe with the game. But I don't know how you change the core of what this game is in that time. So whether it's just time to polish this game up, get it out of 2023, which is seeing some massive releases. And I think if it did launch and it was supposed to, it was going to be surrounded by other massive titles. So that February slot can be quite good for, when people have got downtime and nothing else to play, then you play this. But it's just a shame that it's something like Suicide Squad, Rocksteady's next game, that we're, even putting in that conversation as something like, let's put it in a quiet moment where, it's going to actually get played. And, it's similar to like an Outriders, but Outriders was a game by, a smaller team and doesn't have the, Suicide Squad or DC tag to go with it. So it's just a shame that this game just seemingly can't get out of the limelight for all the wrong reasons.
I reckon they're kicking this can down the road for no benefit. They should have just bit the bullet on this one and launched it when they originally were going to.
I agree. I don't think you get anything out of delaying this game. I think you just put it out, make your money, and Rocksteady just start working on your next game, because I don't know why why they thought we wanted a Suicide Squad game. Give me a Justice League, give me a Superman, give me another Batman game. It's just, I don't know why they went down this road. As far as they've come with it now, just put it out.
Yep, I think they need to rip the Band-Aid off this. What about you, Billy?
Oh, yeah. This is in so much trouble. But I did hear a bit of a rumour that the main reason that they've delayed it to next year is they need to redo the artwork and some of the title name, because it's now called Rocksteady Kills the Justice League.
Zing! I love it. All right, we're not going to top that, so let's move on to story 2.
Story number 2. Nintendo has published the final Zelda Tears of the Kingdom pre-release trailer. So yes, we are getting games this year, games that are being delayed, that already have been delayed, but they are now coming out. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, we're getting it May 12th, just around the corner, only a few days away. I'm going to call it a few days away because it makes it easier to realise that it's still probably a couple of weeks away, but plenty of things to play before then. But I'm not sure if you guys actually got a chance to look at this trailer, but this got me more hyped than the more recent sort of 9 minutes of gameplay we got, which should have just showed us a few things here and there. This just showed us how epic Zelda is going to be, and Ganondorf coming back, and all the big moments in this game. The fact that Link looks or appears to be fighting with some of those other Hyrule heroes and stuff getting out there, which gets me really excited. This was the hype trailer I think I needed that I hadn't got yet out of Zelda. So this was their final trailer, and I think it did everything it needed to do by tying everything up into this epic one trailer that we got. So did you guys get a chance to check it out?
I'll quickly answer and then hand it to you, Billy, because my quick answer is no, I haven't watched it. As I've said before, I'm waiting for the Switch 2 for this game. I'm not going to go hands-on yet, so I don't want to get all hyped now and then have to sit on my hands for 8 months or however long it's going to take them to get the number 2 out. Over to you, Billy.
No, I didn't see the trailer. I think I only caught a little bit of the previous one where they had some gameplay and how some of the new mechanics would work. And that was just more out of interest to see some of the mechanics. But to be honest, I've sort of gone a bit radio solar. I'm sold on day one for me. So I don't need to see any more. And I think, especially for me, it's one of those games that really, part of the magic of it is that discovery that you have yourself and being sent out into this open world and working out how you can use the mechanics to your advantage and doing it that way. I sort of see that, the gameplay that I'll play and that the game experience that I'll have will be entirely different to Unky's and to yours, Troy, when you finally do get around to
No question it'll be different than mine.
When he plays in 2024.
Yeah. And you have that different experience just because you come up, like I know with the first one, there was some, I probably put 30 or 40 hours into it before I started watching some gameplay footage of other people playing it and some of the way that they were using some of the mechanics within the game and some of the not the spells, but the abilities that you had at your disposal and the mind, how some people had come up with some of these ways to do things was, just sort of blew my mind what they come up with and how they traversed areas and how they solved puzzles in completely different ways to I did just because of the way they sort of worked through it. So for me, I'm done. What have we got? 3 weeks to go and that's going to cost me a small fortune between the collector's edition and the amiibo and the special edition controller. And I hope my wife is at work when I come home with all
that. One massive big Amazon box sitting on the front deck for you. Any final points from you, Unky, or should we shuffle along?
Nah, you can shuffle along. I still reckon Bully should watch the trailer because it's pretty epic.
All right, then you're just going to have to believe me that Push Square's headline reads, Preview Firewall Ultra proves. There's plenty to look forward to on PSVR 2. Unky.
Yeah, I can actually talk about these stories now without disdain in my voice because I've actually got one. But no, so a lot of the previews and stuff went out for this just during the week. A lot of people were invited to go play this and go hands-on with it. But I know Firewall was a massive game on the PSVR 1 and was renowned for being sort of the Rainbow Six or Call of Duty of the PSVR world. And everyone's sort of going hands-on with this one. Seemingly, it's more of the same up resolution for the PSVR 2, but it's looking phenomenal from what I've seen. It's even got the eye tracking tech is now to a point where you can shine your torch in game into someone's eyes and you'll actually blind them for a little bit as well. But if you close your eyes at the time they're shining, you won't get either flash grenade or the torch in your face, so you can mitigate that flash in your face. Granted, you're probably not mitigating much because your eyes are being closed, you can't see anyway. But just small things like that, I think they're integrating in that with the gunplay as well. And another great game that I think if you've got a group of 4 players or 4 friends to go in there and then get some multiplayer action, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I'd be like to see this have some single player stuff, which I think it does. I think they mentioned something about a zombie mode and all that kind of stuff being in there as well, and some other single player sort of either shoot house kind of stuff. But no, I'd be very looking forward to see what this game does and what it looks like in the future of PSVR 2, because there's a lot of people out there saying there's nothing out there to play on PSVR 2, but there's a lot of stuff out there. Like you go
my
see
goodness.
all the games and all the stuff that's up-res from the Oculus versions and all that kind of stuff. There's heaps of games out there. There's heaps of games coming. Like they did a showcase, I think, come June when we get all the E3 sort of news about PlayStation. I think you're going to see a lot more people coming out with PSVR 2 games. What I really want to see, after playing Horizon now for a little bit, I'd love to see, I know it's never going to happen, but an Uncharted game set with some climbing and shooting and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that would be phenomenal if they did it. And I would love to see, I don't know whether it's Ben Studio that could do that. They did the other Uncharted game on the Vita back in the day. They did Days Gone as well. So they're a pretty decent developer. Whether they've got the ability to make something for VR, I'm not sure how much confidence a lot of these developers have to put something out for PSVR 2 with some of that negativity around it. And whether it's going to be around the next couple of years or is it going to be another Vita, I don't know. But I think the only way this thing survives is if we do get a lot of these bigger developers developing these types of games and using these kinds of IPs for that brand, where we're going to get our Sony experience in a VR as opposed to getting it anywhere else. And that's why they've done so well with The Last of Us and Spider-Man and stuff. You can only play them on this console. If they give us some of these big IPs that you can only play on PSVR 2, people are going to fork out and buy these games and these headsets.
Yeah, definitely. I would certainly love for a few more first-party supported titles. Half-Life Alex, maybe?
Nice. If they drop that news, I said if they drop that, I was going to buy one no matter what. I've already got one now. If they drop that game, mate, Mrs. not going to see me outside the virtual world for a while.
You'll have to get a second headset so she can pop in and ask you questions. All right, story 4 this evening is Diablo 4. I like the way you sunk those two up, Hunky.
Damn straight. Diablo 4, also from Push Square, Seasons Battle Pass will take roughly 80 hours to work through. So massive. I think that goes in line with a lot of the Fortnite stuff. I think if you want to get most of your battle passes done, that's sort of similar time for that. This is maybe a little bit more, but I'm sort of more in for this solo play to work through battle passes and stuff like that. I cannot wait for Diablo 4. I've pre-ordered it. It's ready to go. Played the beta, loved that. The only thing I didn't love is the fact that none of my progress is going to carry over because I put in a lot of hours. Even got an email from Blizzard, I think it was just a couple of days ago, saying, thank you for your time in your beta. You did this. And my stats were actually pretty decent, I thought. I mean, I think they were pumping up my tires to make sure I didn't cancel that pre-order. But they made me feel good about myself. But hearing we're going to get this kind of content of this game, and they're already listening to feedback from the beta to improve the game and all that kind of stuff, I cannot wait for this game. And knowing we've got all that time, we can just sink into it. It's going to be a busy June with that and Final Fantasy coming out.
Yeah, that and all the E3 announcements to comb through. Bully, any thoughts from you on the 80-hour season pass? Wait, one question from me first. Did they confirm that it was a 12-week season?
I don't think they did.
That's unfortunate. Sorry, Bully. Any thoughts on this one?
Not sure. I'll be honest. I wasn't overly sold on the beta, so I'm not sure. Given that's coming out the same time as Unky mentioned Final Fantasy, I think Final Fantasy is where my time will be going. At that point, if you're talking about that sort of time sink that you got to put into Diablo, it's I'll wait and see how it goes. See how it goes with the connection issues and stuff. Hopefully, it doesn't have the same problems that Diablo 3 had at launch, and we'll wait and see. But I think my time will be in Final Fantasy at that point.
Fair enough, mate. Then let's move on to story 5. Oh, they're finally adding the Quidditch DLC to Hogwarts Legacy, are they, Unky?
No, unfortunately, that's not the case, and that's got people up in arms a bit. I think that's probably what is now. I think you see the reason why we didn't have Quidditch in the Hogwarts game, because Harry Potter competitive multiplayer game Quidditch Champions has been announced, and limited playtest signups are live now. So I think that's for PC at the moment. They haven't confirmed the console stuff yet, but no, I can see this game being very, very popular, given the popularity that Hogwarts has already seen across the board. Still the top-selling game, I believe, this year as well is Hogwarts, and I believe it's going to continue that trajectory as well. I think Resi 4 is the only one close to it in terms of sales this year, but I don't know if that's got the staying power, something like the Harry Potter world. But I think this comes out. If it's got some kind of single player as well, it's not solely multiplayer. Even if it is just multiplayer, I think this game's still going to sell a lot of copies, even if it is just playing Quidditch, which is why I would kind of like to just see it implemented in the Hogwarts game. But no, just I could see a lot of kids playing this game and absolutely loving it.
Yeah, my fingers are crossed for a good showing. Do we know if it's the same engine? Is it the same? Is there any match between this and the existing game? Or are they building it from the ground up in a different engine?
Well, I'm not too sure. Like looking at the art style at the top, it looks a little bit sort of more cartoony, but it says here, like Harry Potter spin-off Hogwarts Legacy, the game is set to be published under Warner Brothers Portkey Games label. So it's the same people. I believe it's different developers, though. I can't see where the developer in development for several years, the LA-based Unbroken Studio, which is also currently contributing to the console versions of Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Shit, it's never coming out.
That's not exactly a something I'd want associated with my brand, I don't think.
No, not at all.
All right, well, sign me up. I'm excited. I'm keen. I'd go hands-on, but yeah, I don't know how well it'll play. Bully, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll probably have to say a bit more about it, but it's a bit of a Harry Potter renaissance at the moment because we obviously had Hogwarts at the start of the year. We've got this one coming out, and then it was announced during the week as well that there's a TV series in development as well. So, it's almost like we're back in 2001 again, and it's Harry Potter all over the world.
All right, then. Harry Potter it is. What about story? What are we up to? 6. Does story 6 contain any Harry Potter news?
It doesn't. We're back into Ubisoft, though. So Ubisoft will show off the Future of Division franchise on Thursday. So that's today for us, but probably tomorrow for everyone else, or tomorrow for us and today for everyone else. Ubisoft will show off what's in store for its Division series during the franchise showcase. Clear your calendar, April 20th, because we're about to take you on a journey through the past, present, and future of the Division franchise, the publisher tweeted on Tuesday. In addition to revealing the Division 2's Year 5 roadmap, Jesus Christ, Division 2 still going, let's give us number 3. Roadmap and the game's new descent mode, the presentation will include a Division Resurgence project update and gameplay preview of the Division Heartland, which I believe is the
mobile one, isn't it?
Is that the mobile one? Yeah, or is that the
Division Heartland? No, I think Division Heartland was the one for smartphones.
I'm just reading through the article. Announced last July, Division Resurgence is billed as the first high-end AAA looter mobile shooter. So there we go. Oh. Resurgence is the... I'm actually looking forward to seeing what that does because I really enjoyed the Diablo game on the iOS and Android devices, or maybe just Android device. Was it last year, Troy? I think we got Diablo.
Yeah, that's right. It's around November, I think.
If you get sort of controller support for that and being able to play it on like an iPad or an Android device, I could see that Division sort of project being quite fun to play. I'm a massive fan of Division 1 and Division 2, and I was so close to reinstalling Division 2 just today just because I love that game and all the cosmetics I've unlocked and all the Resident Evil stuff I've got in there. I just love the core combat and gameplay, and even the co-op in that game's incredible to play. In fact, we're getting Year 5 content now. We'll have to wait and see what they show at this showcase, which is just around the corner. And this is, I think, one of Ubisoft's best franchises. It was one of my favorite franchises of theirs that I believe would deserve and get really good traction on the number 3 if they did just want to do that. So maybe they just bide in their time with all this extra content for 2, just dipping their toes in and seeing what the sort of reception is to this is. And if they get a good reception, then maybe we greenlight Division 3.
Maybe, but Ubisoft's in so much trouble. Very concerning time for those guys. What do you think the chances are? Does the smartphone app go live during this or at the end?
I don't know. I would like to see that. That'd be a nice little kicker at the end. If they could do that and say, and it's live now, that would be incredible for them. I think in the days of Shadow Drops, is that the one you like to call it?
Stealth drop for me.
Stealth drop for you, that's right. So Shadow/Stealth drops in those worlds. I think that stuff really can work that, just like we got Hi-Fi Rush Stealth dropped. I think that did well because of that. I think they could do well with this as well. So we'll report back next Thursday if that was the case, and we'll let you know how it all went.
We will. Bully, any thoughts on the Division in its current state, mate?
No, I don't think I've got back into it since... I played a little bit of the Division 2 when that first released, but spent a fair bit of my time in Division 1 with Unky when that first released. But didn't realise number 2 was still alive and kicking with content releases. In terms of the mobile one, I don't think I'm overly enthusiastic about that, and I'm probably with Unky a little bit. I think it's time just to release number 3 and maybe a next gen or current gen, depending on how you want to phrase it at this point in time. Whether you want to have it as a PS5, Xbox Series type experience. I think that's probably where they should be going at this stage and update it for that. But I guess time will tell. We'll find out in the next sort of 12 or 24 hours.
Beautiful. All right, then, Unky. Story 7, mate. Bring her home.
We've got US PS5 sales are now tracking ahead of PS4s on a time-aligned basis. And then, obviously, a small caveat there, while Resident Evil 4 has topped much as software sales charts. But no, good to see. I think with all the issues we had, obviously, on launch and that, and even for the next 2 years or so, supplies have been really sort of low for the PS5. So finally having, nil supply issues with the console, people will be able to finally get their hands on it. Good to see sales finally sort of hitting that mark, and PS4 sold a lot of consoles. I think it probably still continue to sell over these last sort of 2-3 years, with PS5s being hard to come by, and a lot of people enjoy playing their games on those PS4 and PS4 Pros. But no, good to see the numbers getting up there and people sort of finally be able to jump into the next gen, or current gen as we now call it.
Yeah, it's fantastic work by Sony. What I want to see, though, is Xbox's numbers start to skyrocket as well. That'd be handy. Bully, any thoughts on the sales figures of PS5?
No, I think it was sort of pretty inevitable. It was once it sort of it was a bit more accessible and out into the open market and not available just through scalpers or a long waiting list. I think it was sort of inevitable that this was sort of going to happen. And just as a side note on that, I actually did see there were some pictures of people trying to offload their, quite clearly scalpers with, bulk lots of it. We're trying to offload it at a very discounted price to what you would pay in the stores, because obviously they've either made their money and just trying to offload what they can now, or hopefully the better option is that they overpaid for it, couldn't sell it, and now they're stuck with a whole bunch of stuff that they're going to take a loss on and suck it.
Excellent. All right, then. The new releases for the week, thanks to Game Informer, Unky.
We have Disney Speedstorms. If you love your Disney, love your Mario Kart, they've mashed these together. That's pretty much out on everything. That was April 18. God of Rock was out PS5, Xbox Series X and S, pretty much everything. Minecraft Legends, we spoke about tonight, out on everything. Was given a 7 by Game Informer. We have Puzzle Quest 3 on everything, April 18 also. The Mage Seeker, a League of Legends story on everything, April 18. Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster Series, PS4 and Switch only, April 19. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach releases on Switch, April 19. That's actually a really good game. My little fella made me play it on Xbox and we finished it. I had some frustrating, almost controller throwing moments in that game towards the end as well, but fun little game for, I wouldn't say for kids, but, my 8-year-old's crazy. And then we have Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores, as Bully spoke about tonight. That was April 19. We have Tesla Grad 2 on everything, April 19. Tesla Grad Remastered on everything, April 19. Coffee Talk Episode 2, Hibiscus and Butterfly on everything, April 20. Lost Epic on Switch, Super Meat Boy Forever on iOS and Android, great little game. Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, which I believe Bully has in the mail, coming his way. Hard copies, hopefully soon. Not yet. Hasn't arrived. Don't know. He's nodding. Hasn't arrived yet. It's on its way. I think that's what we've got from him. Yeah, and Dead Island 2. On its
way, damned Amazon.
And Dead Island 2, the big one this week, out tomorrow on PS5, Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Stadia, and PC. And by all accounts, from a lot of reviews, it's got a few 7s and 8s and 9s. It's actually reviewing much better than I thought it would, but we'll give our thoughts next week on Dead Island 2.
Nice, we shall. Hey, Bully, is there any chance you are picking up Dead Island 2 tomorrow?
No, I think I had this discussion with Unky. I think it's on my wait list. I've got Advance Wars, which was supposed to come out about this time last year and got sort of put off because I think there was some concern about it releasing at the same time that the Russia/Ukraine war was kicking off, that it was probably not the best time to release it. So I've been hanging out for that one for about 12 months. So that'll be on my list. And then next week, I think it's Star Wars. So I'm not sure I'll have the time for Dead Island 2 at the moment. And I know it's getting okay reviews, but I sort of, I know Unky was pretty keen on it. So I was sort of maybe waiting to see his impressions and thoughts maybe next week, and we'll go from there. But I think that's probably, for my mind, that's probably a game that I'll wait until it's on sale, I reckon.
Nice one. Well, I can't promise the install will be on the channel tomorrow. Unfortunately, we incurred a few costs in the studio this evening, and I think I'm going to have to prioritize getting my camera working before Dead Island 2. So, initially planned for tomorrow, but don't hold your breath, viewers. I was hoping Bully was going to be able to fill in the gap there and do the install for me. Not the case. All right, then. Where does that bring us to? It's everyone's favorite segment time. Unky, are you ready for some standoff action?
No, I'm always ready.
Who will fight?
All right. Speaking of Dead Island 2, it's finally out after a 9-year hiatus since the first game came out, and with it finally coming out, we're going to ask which game has the most memorable island and which one would we want to be stranded on?
All right. How do you come up with these, Unky? Do you fantasize about being stranded on islands?
Only video game islands, my friend.
Very good. All right. Standoff Entrant 1 is hopefully on screen. There it is.
Standoff number 1, Far Cry 3. Who doesn't remember the islands of Far Cry 3? We've moved away from the African jungles of Far Cry 2 into the bright, sunny, ocean-filled blue skies of Far Cry 3. I think... I don't think it's a far cry to say that this is a lot of people's entry points or favourite Far Cry games. Don't give me that face, Bully. That was a good joke. But no, I love this game going back in the day, and it gave that sort of island holiday feel. But then also you're being hunted by a lot of bad guys, and we spoke about Vast last week as well, being one of the best bad guys in games. He's in there as well, and I don't know if I'd want to be stranded on an island with Vast, to be honest, but the island itself, beautiful to behold, and I think at one point they give you hang gliders and stuff to get around on this game as well. It's got beautiful waterfalls, as you can see on screen now, so if you are going to be stuck on an island with a whole bunch of bad guys and tigers and I was going to say llamas, but I don't think there's llamas. They don't really attack you, and if they did, that's a different game. But
no, isn't it? Is it the badgers that are OP?
Badgers. I knew it was some shit animal that could attack you, and that was it. And they're really annoying as well in this game. I think they kept the annoying badgers for most of the Far Cries as well. But no, I can remember like hunting sharks and diving there to get all their skins to unlock new abilities or new ammo pouches and stuff. I love this game. I love the island setting. It was a beautiful game to behold, and I think this is one of the high watermarks for Far Cry.
Indeed it was. And correct me if I'm wrong, mate, but wasn't this the game that popularized crafting inventory stuff? Like, it's been a common trope for about 10 years, but I feel like Far Cry 3 was the first one to do the old hunt the sharks and expand your wallet.
It potentially could have been, I think, or at least, sort of made it sort of more mainstream as opposed to, a survival game and just bring it into that first-person shooter mode. I think it was the first time I got stuck into a game with all those mechanics and really enjoyed it. So, I loved it.
Yep, an absolute fantastic entrant. I'm a huge fan of Far Cry 3. Any thoughts from you on this one, Billy?
No, to me, it's one of those games that before you even start getting into the enemy encampments and all that sort of stuff, it was the setting itself that really drew me into it. And, having, a lush tropical island like that and great visuals, especially for the time, for me, that really, in terms of a world setting, drags me in without even having to know much about the game, whereas the complete opposite's true. If it was set on a volcanic island and it was all browns and reds and not much to look at, that sort of puts me off as well.
Like Far Cry 2?
Much like Far Cry 2.
Or even Far Cry 4, where they went to the mountains. It was still a better looking game and arguably better mechanically, but I just wasn't as interested to explore that area as I was number 3.
Yeah, I agree. And it was, just the way they sort of put it together. And, some of those missions were quite memorable. I remember the dope crop that you go in and start burning up, and then the psychedelic music starts playing and all the rest of it. So it was actually quite memorable, some of the areas that you sort of traversed as well.
No question. The number 1 entrance so far. What's number 2, Unky?
Number 2 is a new entry. There's a lot of older games, but G.E.A, which we talked about a few weeks ago on PlayStation Plus. This game set in fictional New Caledonia and just an absolute beautiful game to behold. And especially now that only a couple of weeks later they gave us that 60 frame per second patch. Let's hope Redfall follows suit and it takes little time as well to do it. This game, it was my only gripe on the game initially, and this game is absolutely beautiful. This is like Far Cry without the guns and without the murderous torture and stuff going on. You just sort of have this beautiful island to go around. I think that's partly the reason you'll play this game is how beautiful it actually is, and taking photos and just exploring this actual world, kind of like Breath of the Wild, where you just pick a point to go and go there. You've got awesome traversal mechanics in this game where you can, become a bird, or, a deer, or I'm going to say a llama, or a badger. You can do whatever you like in this game and just become those animals and just traverse this world. And whether it's daytime, nighttime, dusk, dawn, this game looks absolutely beautiful.
I hear what you're saying, man, and I know it's a big appealing one to you, but for me, from my eye, this doesn't hold a candle to the old Far Cry 3. How about you, Billy?
Part of it for me is, yes, to me it looks amazing, even though it's a different art style to Far Cry 3, obviously. But I think just in terms of the world building itself, the simplistic way that you make your way across the world, whether it's the raft and having to manually change from steering it to increasing your speed by raising or lowering the sails, to climbing up coconut trees to knock out coconuts and stuff. Just the simplicity of moving around that world and navigating the world, I think, adds a lot to it as well, on top of how good it actually looks.
Yeah, I'll agree with that as well. It's just got that kind of Wind Waker sort of esque about it, where you just jump on the thing and go to new islands and stuff. It's just got that exploration feel about the islands, and I just love you got your main islands and all the small stuff. You've got shipwrecks and stuff you can go to as well. It just has that exploration feel about it that the Breath of the Wild has, but this has got in that island setting. So no, such a beautiful place to go, and you're not trying to get murdered by everything left, right, and centre.
That's probably the only one in the list. Who is number 3 on the list?
Number 3, speaking of getting murdered left, right, and centre, is the Fortnite Island. I call it the island. I think it has had different names over its time. I think it's maybe had 3 different names now, but it's just called the island now. It has that many different changes and stuff over its seasons now that it's looked completely different to what it did back in the day when it first launched. But it's such a memorable island. I would say memorable islands in video games, there's probably not many more memorable than the Fortnite Island. The amount of people that play this game and know sort of different areas in this map, even if it's taking the same names of towns and stuff you've already seen before in past games, that completely turn them on their head and all that kind of stuff. It's just so synonymous with gaming now, this island. I don't know if I want to be stranded there with all these people trying to kill me, and if I'm dead, I'm out and I've got to sit in the queue and play a brand new game. But just not only is it memorable for the actual island itself, but the way they change it, the characters you can be in this game. Like, you can be Batman, Superman, anything from DC, Marvel. You can be Kid Leroy. You can be bloody anything in this game you want to be, provided you fork out the cash for it.
Yeah, indeed. And Bully, you unlocked The Witcher 3, didn't you? That surely you're running around as Geralt.
I think I paid for the battle pass and never got back to unlocking Geralt. So I don't know if I can still do it or not, to be honest. But to be fair, even if I did, I would have played it once. I don't think I've actually played more than one game of Fortnite in 12 months. I don't think so. I'll leave that to the kids to enjoy. Well, that's the other point. Is, like, it's school holidays at the moment, and the kids, I can't get them off it. So there's not much chance for me. But the world itself, it's almost spawned its own art style in a way, in terms of that Fortnite aesthetic, and a lot of games trying to copy it since that was released. So if nothing else, it's obviously a bit of a touchstone in terms of popular and gaming culture.
Definitely. I'm a big fan of this island, and I know if my boys got a vote, they would both be voting for the Fortnite Island. But who is the 4th option this evening, Unky?
4th option is the only island I was able to go to during COVID, because this game hit at the absolute perfect time at the peak of COVID, 2020. Animal Crossing New Horizon. I'd never really got into Animal Crossing games before, but for whatever reason, I got sucked in big time to Animal Crossing New Horizon. It was just mundane tasks on this cute little island and trying to get money for Rook. What's his name? What's the little dude's name that just wants you to pay for everything, and he just keeps wanting more and more and more?
You are asking the wrong guy. Bully, help. Mute, Bully.
Yeah. Oh, Nook, I think he said. Is it Nook?
Nook. Yeah, sorry, Nook.
Nook, yeah. I was close with Rook, but Nook, that bloody greedy mother. He's always wants more money from me.
Talking about he's almost as annoying as those badgers are, that little raccoon man.
He really is. Just always wants more money for more things. But you know what? I kept bloody giving it to him, and I kept doing all those mundane tasks that I found really fun to do. But what a cute little island to be stuck on. I remember just always going to the beach and trying to, fish for the better fish, and doing all the different menial tasks that I had to do, and creating bridges and better houses and adding all my stuff to the museum. I had so much fun in this game, and there was a point there where I was just logging in to get my daily bonus stuff every single day, and there was a point there I thought I'm never going to miss a day until I missed a day, and then I missed 2 days, and now I've missed probably 3 years straight now I haven't played it. But I had such a good time with this, and I think maybe it was because, it just gave me that joy of just going into a world where you couldn't go out of your own home and stuff. So I had a lot of fun with this cute little game.
Nice one. Bully, final points on what's that one? Animal Crossing, or should we kick off to 5?
I think you covered it pretty well. Let's kick along.
All right, then 5. Ghosts of Tsushima.
We have the island of Tsushima. What a beautiful island. I've spoken about it in the past. This game has spawned more screenshots from me in photo mode than any other game I've ever owned. And it's for its pure beauty of just traversing this world, and not only traversing it, but the navigation mechanics in this with the wind and the leaves and stuff just add to the beauty of this island and just give it such a place of being when you're in that world that such a joy to explore on horseback, in person, with the wind at your back. And you can see here with the grass moving, and when they had the Iki Island expansion as well, which sort of was a bit more coastal as well, that added more to it as well. So just such a beautiful island, something different that we've seen to all these other tropical stuff being set in like feudal Japan.
Now I've got to ask, Unky, where the question is, which island do we want to be stranded on? Can you confirm for me, is it the bad guys present when we're stranded on the island?
Technically, if you are stranded, I think you're stranded not only on the island, but in the world of that game as well. So,
wow. Yeah.
But you can consider yourself not too bad with a samurai sword as well. So, if the bad guys that you can do, you don't have to hide from them. So, it's just say you essentially got all the abilities your main character does to survive that world. So, if you want to be stranded in here, you are essentially a samurai.
Excellent. Well, something to consider as we look at number 6, Just Cause.
Just Cause. I remember loving the first Just Cause. Then Just Cause 2 came out. I'm like, this is the best video game ever made when I saw this thing for the first time, because of the amount of stuff you could do, jumping on cars and then popping parachutes. I'm like, this thing's like an open world Uncharted. And the island of Panau was just massive. I remember seeing this world. I think at the time it was the biggest map a video game had ever seen. And it had everything. It had every single bully, forgive me, biome you could possibly scrounge into an open world game. And it was just such a fun time. I would if I could be stranded in a game, I'd love to have this, especially if I've got all of Rico's abilities, because this guy's a badass, and he's a badass in one of the biggest, baddest islands ever created in a video game, as far as I'm concerned.
Fair call, mate. I love me some Just Cause action. I don't recall. Surely Just Cause 2 had the grapple shot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah. Yep.
I think I dropped most of my time in Just Cause 3, and I know it's certainly in there. Points from you on Just Cause 2 there, Billy.
Oh, sorry, I tuned out at the mention of biomes. But
all right, then.
Again, it was one of those things. It was almost the same as Far Cry 3. It was the setting of that tropical island and the blue water and the rest of it. But plus, add on top of that the traversal mechanics that you had as well, and almost to a point of your Breath of the Wild type thing, where you could, however your imagination worked, was how you could traverse that island with the as you mentioned, Troy, the hook shot, and you could attach that to vehicles, and then you could attach that vehicle to another vehicle, and just the way you could maneuver about that world was amazing as well. Not just the actual environment that you were thrown into.
Yeah, great points. All right, then number 7, Unky.
7, one of my favourites. I spoke about it earlier when I was talking about G.E.A, but nothing will dethrone the greatness that is Zelda Wind Waker. Just taking Zelda from an open world, sort of flat world to islands was just, I think, a stroke of genius for Zelda. It still stands out to me today as one of, if not my favourite Zelda games. Just that exploration you get from going from island to island. But just this first island, I think, just does it so well. It's so well ingrained in me, this island now, where everything is in this island, where the shield, where the sword are, where you go up onto the bridge and come across to take on your first enemies. I've just got such a good memory of this game, this beautiful art style that it's got. I've spoken in the past again about how much I love this sort of cel-shading art style. I think it works and lends itself really well to Zelda. I'm surprised we haven't seen any more mainline titles take this. I know that Breath of the Wild sort of pairs it back a little bit and sort of it does sort of go that cel-shading, but I really enjoyed this style, and just the exploration from the raft and the boat going from island to island, the way each island has its own sort of uniqueness to it. I can't speak more highly of Zelda and this game.
You are a true fan of this art style, man, but it still doesn't do it for me. I can see, I can appreciate. For you, it's great, but for me, it's a pass. This art style doesn't do it for me. Bully, your thoughts?
Oh no, I love it as well. And the funny thing with it is that when it was actually released back in the early 2000s, it was roundly panned for the art style and the direction that they were going in with him. But as it turns out, 20 odd years down the track, if you look back at the initial sort of 3D Zelda games, even back to the N64 and what we've seen since up until probably the Breath of the Wilds, as Dunkey said, is in that same category. It's the only one, in my opinion, that actually holds up graphically today. Like as good as the N64 games were, and some of the later ones probably aren't as good or as memorable, but certainly the N64 ones were. But going back to play them in this day and age, they're very difficult to actually play because it's got that really janky, squarish and polygonal art style that goes with it that doesn't really, as I say, hold up. Whereas this 100% does. You could play it now and it doesn't, and we've seen, as you said, Unky, before, that with G.E.A, it's almost that same sort of art style. So it's still an art style that holds up and certainly one that's still being used in some way, shape or form today. So, and in terms of the world, it's, as you said, an amazing world and a completely different experience from a Zelda point of view.
It's just missing that 120 field of view.
I don't know that.
Resident Evil 4, Unky?
Yeah, Resident Evil 4, this is definitely an island you probably don't want to be stranded on, but it is definitely one of the most memorable islands as far as I'm concerned, because all I remember when I hear the island and when the Resident Evil 4 remake came out, I was just, I wouldn't say chomping at the bit because I was frightened to even come back here just with the regenerators hitting me, because those are some of the most frightening enemies I think I've ever faced in a video game, and I was just not looking forward to seeing what they did in the brand new version of this game, where you need your infrared gun to shoot the parasites inside these bad guys before they go down. There are the means to kill them, but that is the best way. But the way they slither along the ground and jump at you and suck on your face, like, it is just yuck. But it's awesome. Like, it's great horror stuff, and the setting they put you in here as well, being on the island. Again, don't think I'll be visiting this island anytime soon, and I'll wanted to be stranded on it. But definitely for me, one of the most memorable of the islands, especially as the chapter itself is called The Island.
Very good, mate. Yeah, probably the best looking island we've got in the list tonight, but I certainly would never want to actually visit this place. How about you, Willie?
No, I agree with you. It's there's no way you'd want to visit the island, but I mentioned before about having that tropical sort of setting that really draws you in. Well, it's quite clearly the complete opposite with this one. It's dark. It's raining for most of the time that you're on the island, and all those sort of things. So in terms of the aesthetics of the environment, I suppose it's completely different. But I agree with Unky that the actual gameplay while you're there is absolutely amazing. Although, agree, I'm not sure I want to be dumped on an island with hordes of, bizarro zombies and weirdo worshipping freaks, and then the end boss at the island as well.
All right, then, Unky, Bully's hard passing the zombies. Can you sell him on a Yoshi?
I can absolutely sell me Yoshi. If there's any island you want to be stranded on, surely it's with a whole bunch of Yoshis, boy.
Oh, well, yes. Yeah, I'll hang out with the Yoshis all day, every day.
That's right. Now, like with Bully said with Wind Waker and its art style being timeless, I think this is another game that holds up very well to this day, no matter how old the game is and where you play this thing. I think the art style is so charming and so colourful and bright and vibrant. It's just a joy to play this game. And who doesn't love Yoshi? Yoshi's still my favourite character, my go-to character for Mario Party, for Mario Kart. Doesn't matter where if I've got an option to play as Yoshi, I'm playing as Yoshi.
Can I play Mario Kart as Mario but riding Yoshi?
No, you can't, but that would be nice, wouldn't it, if you just ran along? You do Yoshi. There should be a Yoshi kart or Yoshi racing where you just all jump on the back of different color Yoshis. That'd be amazing.
They've got motorbikes in the old.
I know.
They've got motorbikes in there. Surely they can have Yoshis.
Nah, surely. But where does Yoshi come from? He comes from his own island. And this is an adorable little island, isn't it?
It is a thing of beauty. Now, this art style still does speak to me. I'm taken way back when looking at it. What about you, Billy?
Well, it's funny because when you talk about games that still hold up, I reckon most of the SNES library still holds up today in terms of the graphical style. But certainly this was a little bit of a departure from what we'd seen. It was almost, I remember at the time, similar to Zelda a little bit. There was some sort of there was a little bit of consternation about the art style and how it was. You were playing as Yoshi with Baby Mario on your back, and it was, the criticism when it was first previewed was that it was basically a kids game and wasn't for the true Mario fans. But quite clearly, once you get your hands on it and the mechanics and all the rest of it, and it's got all that same Mario stuff in there, that it's got your secrets, it's got your excellent gameplay and your fantastic platforming. So it's got everything that you want in a game, just a different art style. And 100% agree, it still holds up today.
Beautiful work. All right, fellas, I've got to ask the question, where are your chips sitting this evening for the standoff?
Most memorable island first. For me, I'm sitting somewhere between Far Cry 3 and Fortnite.
Most memorable for me would have to be Ghost of Tsushima.
Where am I sitting? I'd probably almost go with Far Cry 3 for the most memorable, just in terms of the setting and how quickly it drew me in with the environment that you were placed in, as I said earlier.
So do you and do Unky and Bully, do you both agree then, Far Cry 3?
I think for where it landed a bit earlier on, it's still remembered today as one of those amazing video game settings that we had. Ghost of Tsushima probably will stand the test of time and is such a memorable island, but hasn't had the time to sit as long as something like Far Cry 3 is. And the fact that we're still talking about Far Cry 3 now on a list with a whole bunch of newer games, I think it's testament to it.
Fair call.
Well, is that the one that you want to end up on, though? That's the other.
No. So, I mean, we can do two separate. We can get the win for the most memorable island, or do you want to do one that's most memorable and that you would stay on?
Well, I think you got to take it as a whole topic. So do the most memorable that you'd actually want to stay on. So I'll throw mine out there and go with the last one of Yoshi's Island. I just want to go and hang out with the Yoshis. That'd be cool.
That swings me there. Like, if I can hang out with a bloody Yoshi, damn straight I'm hanging out with a Yoshi. And I dare say it's a pretty memorable island as well. The game's called bloody Yoshi's Island. No other game has that the name of the island in the title.
I could certainly get behind Yoshi's Island for a win here tonight, fellas. Excellent work on the standoff, as always, Unky. And Yoshi's Island, a winner is you for episode 70 for the standoff. Now, Bully, it's over to your good self for audience integration. What has been happening in that there YouTube chat?
Well, I've tried to keep abreast of it as best I could while we were going, but we've had a few, I suppose, long-lost listeners. James is in there.
Hey, James, welcome back.
Hasn't joined us for a little while, but he's certainly back in there. Tigaro, as per usual. We've had Jacob, who I haven't seen in there before, as well. But some of the comments that I did miss as we were going, myself and Tigaro were sort of reminiscing a little bit about some of the old Sega Master System days when I referenced the Wonder Boy game and some of the nostalgia that brought back to me. And he was sort of throwing some of his... he'd love to see a Pitfall remake would be one of them. And then Time Soldiers, which was, I think it was an arcade game as well, but certainly a classic that I recall from those days as well. And he's also thrown in there just his votes for the standoff. So he's gone with Besaid Island. I'm not sure where that one's from, and Taunton Island from the Grand Theft Auto games.
Oh, okay. Excellent input.
Ones we didn't have, but that's where his votes were.
Yes, we need to come up with a better system for audience voting during the week or something, but that's a problem for another day. Bully, great work in that YouTube chat. To all the viewers that were chatting along with us, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate your input. But, gentlemen, that'll do it for this evening. If I can find a button, we can go off duty. Oh, my God, two wrongs don't make it right. Here we go. Off. Unky Dunky, thank you very much, sir, for all your help this evening.
Mate, it's been my pleasure. I can't wait to get stuck into Dead Island 2. Maybe midnight tonight. We'll see how we go.
Woo-wee! Where'd you pick that one up on, mate? PS?
Not on the Xbox. I've got to save all that PlayStation space for the 150 gigabyte install that is for Survivor next week. So
Perfect. You save, and good luck on that, mate. We're keen for your thoughts next Thursday. Bully, thank you very much for your joining us this evening and patrolling that chat, mate.
Thank you very much, lads, and have a good week gaming coming up.
Oh, yes, indeed. We will be back next Thursday for the Gaming Enforcement Agency episode 71. Unky, what else can you do with the channel?
like it, subscribe it. You'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's something.
Oh!
Two players play.
Old Uncle Donkey.